G'day guys. Fresh new canvas here, and what's going to be really fun about this one is it's not lately. I'm talking with, I've got a commission that's coming together probably late this month, next couple of days, weeks or so. But in between that and now, and shipping the Hong Kong boats, I thought I'd do a bit of renaissance back to the egg tempera. And on top of that, this is marble dust on the surface. So if you were here originally when we were working on these, we had marble dust on the surface mixed in with glue, which now we were here originally when we were working on these, we had marble dust on the surface mixed in with glue, which now we apply egg tempera to. Marble dust is very similar to any slightly better surface. It's quite rigid, but the absorbency of it's perfect to match egg tempera. You can use chalk dust, and marble dust is technically more old school. The big reason I've gone for marble dust over chalk dust is it sounds cooler. I like marble dust. All right, now we are going to be painting a portrait on this one here. So I'm going to be doing it as a little bit of a live course. So we'll chat a bit right now, but as soon as I get started, team, my focus, a little bit of a live course. So we'll chat a bit right now, but as soon as I get started, team, my focus is going to be on the recording. So we'll be any face. You don't need to use the same face that I'm using. You can use whatever face you want and make a picture come to life. But it's your good luck being here with me right now that you're also going to get to see it come to life. So thanks for joining on in. Fantastic to have you here. You're also going to get to see it come to life. So thanks for joining on in. Fantastic to have you here. Come to life. So thanks for joining on in. Fantastic to have you here. And let's. Now you can use whatever you like, but I'll be using gouache. And as of right now, ooh, what's wrong? Bang. You guys back alive? Excuse my hair, jeepers creepers, what a head. There we go. Now you guys have got good connection. All right, starting from in just a moment, I'm gonna be focusing completely on the art and walking you through step by step. And you're welcome to be here, like flies on the wall. All right, you ready to go? I'm ready. Welcome on in, everyone. Today we're painting a portrait, massive, and we're gonna focus predominantly on the primary colors. First one that we're gonna start with is intense blue. Now I'm using gouache paint. And gouache paint, I love it, is essentially a pigment paste that I can use to combine into egg tempera. It is completely interchangeable for any other kind of paint. If you want to use acrylic, if you want to use oils, if you want to use, probably not watercolors, but everything else is totally fine. All right. And I've chosen blue because it's a darker color. And it's got that depth to it. And since we're layering quite fast and intensely, I want to catch the fundamental defining details before running off and making all the other little itsy bitsy bobs. First bit of paint, right there on the finger. Right. I've mixed up some mix here already. This is my egg tempera blend. This is 50%, 50% water and 50% egg yolk. It's written all over your face. There we go. And when I combine it with the gouache paint, now because gouache is already a liquid, I don't want to add too much egg to it. About a 1-to-1 mix. But this is where it gets really fun, because as of yesterday, your artist turned the ripe old age of 32. And for my 32nd birthday, my uncle's got me one of the most incredible gifts I could possibly ask for, and that's paintbrushes. There we are. Absolutely wonderful. Let me bring this right up so you can see it. This is a custom-made paintbrush. Handmade. You can see the actual change of the heartwood, which is New Zealand timber, into the other kind. God, I love this. Anyway, I'll be using these today, and because I wanted to keep them in very good condition, here's the one I'm going to start with. It's actually square. Because I want to keep them in good condition, that's why I'm using egg tempera, because you can wash it off with cold water. Now, anyone who joins in, and we're making this live, please know that we are recording a class, a paint class. So I've got 2 phones going, one recording the class, one that's on for subscribers, and you're welcome to be part of it in this space, but I won't be able to reply to a whole lot of the comments. I'll do my best to, here and there, but we're focusing on making this art come to life. So I've got blue on the brush, a whole bunch of blue, look at that. Voila, voila. And what we're gonna do is spot the big details in whichever portrait we're working on. For my portrait, I've zoomed right up. So the eyes touch each side of the canvas and the mouth is cut off at the bottom. Why? It's my portrait. I'm not such a fan of mouths, so I'm cropping the mouth out of it, along with the ears and the top part of the head. So I'm focusing heavily on just the eyes and the nose. The other thing that gives me is a massive zoom up, but also a 1-to-1 composition, which fits on my prepared surface. So, one thing you get with egg tempera that I love, 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 is I don't even have to worry too much about perfectly carving out the lines. As you start, you actually want to go over those lines. You want to make it larger than it is. But as you go, spot a shape, add a shape, and let that brush just flow in your hands. The only thing with egg tempera that makes it unique from other kinds of paint is you need to apply it. What's happening to my vocal cords today? Apply it nice and thinly. There we go. So if it goes on nice and thin, it dries rapidly, and also it won't crack. And that's an important element of this kind of paint. But one thing to do that people don't think about a lot of the time, think about the fact that no matter what you make or how you make it, if you apply the brush strokes with a huge amount of confidence when you add them, no chicken scratches, just confident movements in these brush strokes, even when the picture's wrong, imperfection looks good when it's done in style. So when you move the brush over the surface, move it with meaning. And if you move it with meaning, even when the picture comes out not perfect realism, not the way you intended it, trust me, it'll look good. Kind of like dancing. You know, when someone dances, they don't need a plan and they don't need to do dance moves. I guess doing dance moves would be the exact same equivalent to realism in art. You don't need dance moves. You need the right energy and you need the right level of confidence. Because if you don't have confidence when you dance, you can spot that on the dance floor miles and miles away. So think of your canvas like a dance floor. It's your responsibility to make sure whatever you put on it, it's done with confidence. And trust me, just trust me. It's all you've got right now is to trust me when I say if you add it with confidence, it's going to look good. And even if it's not looking right at the start, you can actually give up on it altogether and let it go completely abstract. But do me one favor, if that's your plan of attack, do me one little favor. Keep adhering to what the image says. Get all your inspiration from the image. Even if you start going a little bit wild and a little bit crazy, make sure everything you add is inspired by, in some small way, by what you see in the image. Just encroaching around those eyes. There we go. Gorgeous. Sandfly bites your neck. That's just part of the struggles of painting outside. I did spray myself with a insect repellent, but it seems I didn't spray myself high enough up my body. I just did my legs. So now we're actually battling with that, but I think we'll be okay. And then just down the side here, the beauty about this picture that I've got, and you can do it with whatever picture you want to paint, is you can increase the contrast. Oh yes, you can increase the contrast on the image right up, and what that'll help you do is spot exactly where those deeper, darker colours want to go. If you don't add that extra bit of contrast in, sometimes all the colours can look medium grey, and it takes a little bit more artistic eye or inspiration to actually spot the areas you want to go dark and the areas you want to send light. But now with photo manipulation, you can build that into the image in order to make sure your eyes don't have to strain. It's not cheating, it's just stopping you from having to strain your eyes while you paint. And that's totally okay. As for the palette today, we're painting on porcelain. This is a lovely porcelain plate. And there we go. Gorgeous. It's going to sneak right out there to the edge. Beautiful. And down through there. Spike up through there. Down there. God, I love painting with tempera. It's just so pure. It has this purity to it which is infectious. Painting was something that actually... Painting anything natural with something natural, it has this amazing continuity to how you make it. Now, if your picture's at the stage right now where you're adding blues and nothing looks like it makes sense, but you were following the image, it was all inspired by it, and yet your picture's confused, brilliant. You have landed exactly where you want to be. Let's continue on that trajectory. Now let me move my little picture here. Peg it onto the side. I'm going to put it up right here in the middle. And you can see that it is a face. It's zoomed in heavily. And now I'm going to add in a little bit around this point. Now, if you're starting to judge your picture too much, do me a favor. I want you to start looking at the subject matter, the picture that you're pulling your inspiration from, 60% of the time. 60% of the time, I want you to focus on your image, not on your canvas. If you look at your canvas too much, you'll judge where you are too much, and you need to be looking forward. Just like when you're on a bike or riding a horse, you look to where you're going, not where you are. If you look at where you are, you fall right then and there. A painting is absolutely zero difference. Zero difference. If you look at where you are and not where you're going, you'll never get further than the current mess you've got. You must look at this painting and only add, focusing on the image over and over again. And don't worry if you miss a few strokes. One of the beautiful things that you have, in comparison to looking at your art versus AI art, or whatever it is you make, is those little moments of imperfection, those mistakes that you'll make, those side quests you'll go on. And what makes art beautiful by humanity is how we address that. Do we celebrate the mistake? Do we try to cover it up? It's okay to try and cover up the mistake. You'll never fully cover it up. There'll always be evidence of it being there. But by doing so, oh God, that's what makes our art beautiful. You never see a mistake in an AI image that the computer's trying to cover it, that the computer's tried to cover up. Because computers' cover-up's always perfect. Us, on the other hand, we've never done a perfect cover-up. And that's what makes our art beautiful. That's what brings in the fun. Now, one little wild card here. I'm not sure which picture you've decided to work to today. If you're working with a picture at all, or if you're just watching me, that's fantastic too. But I've got a very, very easy picture for this job. Because one thing you'll notice in my portrait, look at the amount of wrinkles I have. Not me, my face is lovely. I've got tons of wrinkles, guys. I love it. I actually notice how wrinkly you get when you go up onto the live streams these days. It's got a dial you can change to actually smoothen your face or make it realistic. And you just go right up to it and zoom it around and you think, jeepers creepers, is that how much you can get rid of? And every year it gets rid of a bunch more. I'm thinking, I'm gonna do myself a pact. I'm gonna try for as long as I can to resist, to not use this feature. Just try and get your real mug there in front of the camera. No matter how blotchy things get as the years tick by and the wrinkles deepen. I think we need to change it. As a society, we've always focused on it being a case of we want young, beautiful, smooth skin. I get that. I totally get that. But what if we changed it? And maybe we find beauty in smooth skin, but maybe there's an elegance, a growth, a respect that we have for skin that can tell a lot of stories. Rather than going, ooh, it's not smooth. Maybe the other side? I don't know. There's a Roy Sutherland, the marketer, actually. And not that I'm trying to market different kinds of skin, but there's Roy Sutherland, and he says the opposite of a good idea is another good idea. So maybe it's the same for skin. Not that skin's a good idea, but that maybe there's something to do with a trail of thought that I just lost. It's a good sign. It's a good sign. It means we're concentrating on the painting, losing our trail of thought in the moment. Losing our trail of thought. Here we go. Don't be afraid to go over those lines, guys. You are not committed to blue. Think of this blue color like high school or primary school. You're in it right now, but you've got plans far bigger than this. It doesn't matter if you don't make the debating team. No one will remember that you farted while standing in line for maths class. You might, and you'll torture yourself, but no one else will remember. Do you remember what anyone else did in high school? Anyone at all? Did you laugh at the time, but now you've forgotten? It's kind of the way it goes. And yet we carry so much guilt, so much embarrassment. I think the embarrassment turns into shame, and that turns into guilt. And from there we have a hard time actually kind of relinquishing ourselves of it. Well, think of this early layer just like that. And although you're stuck in it right now, there's no other colours around, but you're messing with this one. This is the space you're in. Bear with me for a moment and think that actually there is a whole spectrum of colours out there. A whole spectrum. And you're just on number one right now. That doesn't mean ignore it. Play with it, but understand its piece in the larger tapestry of what this work's going to become. Another thing too, and I'm known to do this as much as anyone else, I get in my own head and I start saying, oh, and if it turns out to be a disaster, and if it doesn't go right, if it's this, if it's that, it might all go wrong, but we're hoping on this and hoping on that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Hope's good, and understanding all the possible outcomes is also good, but I want you to look at your work and not judge it. You don't have to call it a masterpiece every day. You don't have to do that, but don't put it down. Don't even hold space for saying it might not work out. True, it might not work out, but you don't need to say that. That's an instance that doesn't need to get talked about, and if it happens, it's okay. You need to focus entirely on putting good energy towards the artwork you're making, and that will give the artwork the best possible chance of becoming what it can become. And If you were your own coach, I don't think you'd want anything less than that for the art that you make. Excuse me. Electrolytes. Delicious. Now, when I have things like electrolytes, I like to wash it down with a little bit of water. Because although it tastes yummy, nom nom nom, the aftertaste of it in your mouth isn't so great. So I have a glass of water and a glass of electrolytes, and that keeps me in kilter. Now, the other thing too is if you're sitting down when you make art, try to stand up. There can be a lethargic element that builds into your brush if you're sitting down, stationary. And, well, that can be nice. I like a bit of energy. Even though we're not thrashing the canvas as we move around, which is also very fun, we do need to actually get a bit of perk in the brush strokes. And if I sit down, the brush immediately becomes more lethargic. Because the one thing you'll notice as I'm touching this canvas and moving around it, what's happening with my body? My torso's shifting. I'm allowing brush strokes not just to be the same angle that I would from a seated position, but actually allowing me to move and construct around the surface. And that's part of the fun of making a piece of artwork. All the brush strokes have their own unique identity, not one constructed over and over again by my shoulder and body, limiting the spectrum of space, the angle and expression that each brush stroke can capture. You need that movement. You need that movement. See how I can approach it from different angles there and there? And if you're thinking, I don't want to have this level of movement, I'm afraid I'm going to look silly like you do. You will. And I do look silly. But you know what? You know who looks more silly than you moving your body while you paint? The guy watching you move your body while you paint, laughing at you. Because at the end of the day, that's a guy laughing at a painter having a good time. And if I was there, I would be judging him a whole lot more than whatever dance move you thought you needed to do to land a brushstroke that day. So, don't ever worry about people laughing at you while you paint. This is your opportunity, your moment to have a good time. Why would you ever limit that? And imagine this. For a brief moment, let's imagine something a little bit more naughty. Let's imagine this is the last painting that you're ever going to make. How would you approach it? Would you try and make it the best example of realism you'd ever made? Or would you, just like a child, when you first started painting in your life, would you approach it with a fun, loose, joyful method, thinking this is the last time I'll ever paint, so kumbaya, let's have a good time? I think you'd enjoy the latter. I think you'd go into an environment where kumbaya, let's have a good time, encapsulates everything you do as you touch the canvas. And I think that's the case. Now, we've had fun with our blues, but if you're like me, blues all over your palette. Voila. I've got blue everywhere, and I love the blue, so I'm not going to actually stop using the blue, but I need to find a purple to add into the blue, which is going to give me this deep purpley blue color, obviously, purple and blue. There's a scientific name for purple and blue. It's called purpley blue. And if you make that color, you'll get purpley blue. All right, there we go. This is dioxide purple, I think. So it's deep, and you can see that royal depth to it. It's kind of like ink when you just start seeing purple in those vivids. That's the color we've got there. And the reason why I've got this color is I'm going to use this color to spot areas of even more depth, kind of like using ink on a face. And I'm going to cut some of those wrinkles in there as well, put them in there, and really just play with them out to the edges. There we go. Beautiful. That's what I'm after. This brush here that I'm using, it's like a rat tail brush. So you see how it's not actually balanced, it's asymmetrical? I love these things. Now you can use a flat brush, it's totally fine. The reason why I like a rat tail brush like this, and that's what they call them in construction, they might have a different name in art, but a rat tail brush allows you to phase off to the tips. And if you can phase off to the tips, you can do finer strokes. So with a regular brush, it's going to carry an equal amount of paint on all the brushes, but on this brush, this one here, as you start painting with it, it's going to mean that you can get finer areas of detail by just using that tip on one side. Especially when you run down and flick off with a tip. That's why you'll notice on this painting, as opposed to other ones I've started, you can get more jab lines in with it. It's a really, really fun brush. It is a fun brush. So if you're looking to paint too, and brushes are a bit expensive, I get that. Brushes can be super expensive. You don't need to buy fancy brushes from the art store. You can go to a DIY store. You can go in there, guess what you buy? You just literally buy the ones that they use for commercial paintings. A lot of the times the brushes we use here are those brushes. Go in there and ask for a rat tail brush and they'll sort you out with one. It's not too far off the one I'm using. This one here is a very fancy one. It's been handmade by my uncle. It's timber. He's hand sanded it into the shape it's in, and then he's put the brush handle on it. This is a really fancy brush, but it's no different than one you'd get from a DIY store. The key difference being that this one has a whole bunch of aura, and I've got emotional attachment to it. So no, I'd never trade this one. It is free from value because it will forever be my favorite. But practically, if you don't want something you're emotionally connected with, go to a DIY store. They'll have plenty of stuff for you. Whatever you think you need. There we go. Gorgeous. That's exactly what I'm after. That's the first time I've touched that eye. Now, if you've got eyes like a hawk, I shouldn't say eyes like a hawk, that's good eyesight. If you've got eyes like an artist, because this is a mess, please understand this is a mess. And if you're looking at this face here and you're seeing eyes and a nose and a mouth, you're experiencing what's called pareidolia. Pareidolia is when you make subject matter out of nebulous things. These are chaotic strokes. There's nothing in this. It's wild, it's messy. But inside of it, you're able to look at it and pull a face out of it. If you're doing that, that's the eyes of an artist. And you're actually, there's a page I follow on Facebook called Things That Look Like Faces or something. And it's just a whole bunch of situations of pareidolia. But if you can see the face in this, the eyes, the mouth, and sorry, not the mouth, it's tucked down below here. The eyes and the nose and the cheeks, the brow, the forehead. It may surprise you to know, or not surprise you if you've known already, that you do have the eyes of a creative, because that's not actually what's here. You're seeing that with the foresight of eyes of an artist. This is such a mess. But you need to have the ability to not judge this and keep, remember how I said 60% of your focus on the image, not here, here. And if you can do that, you'll keep seeing where the picture's going, not where it is. Now, if you haven't done creative things before, but you see the face, you're denying the world something, because you have the eye of an artist. And I think this world's done you a slight injustice by not helping you ever find what that medium to express yourself might be. And so if you're painting along with me right now, or if you're just watching, both are totally fine, and you can see this, even if you don't like the work you've made, or you've never made work before, you do have the eye to make work. And I think we just need to find your... If you get lost from there, you're welcome to reach out to me. Talk to me about what you've done, or what you see and feel. And maybe we just need to find your medium. Maybe it's clay, maybe it's ink, maybe it's tablet, maybe it's music, maybe it's poetry. Whatever it is, your eyes see art. I feel like we all talk about art teachers. Very few people talk about an art teacher bringing their creativity out. More talk about how their art teachers broke them. Well, I didn't really ever have a phenomenal art teacher that I thought they changed the game for me. But I did have phenomenal friends and loved ones, my mum, my dad. A lot of people have influenced my art in absolutely massive ways. But for me, I never really had an art teacher as such. I did have art teachers, but nothing that actually, if I was writing a biography, autobiography, God forbid, that I'd shout out and say, this teacher made such a difference. They're all just there. Didn't have to be there, they were there. Taught me some skills. Could pass. But, I think at a certain point in all artists' life, you need to accept that actually your little pilgrimage, your journey, is your own. And you not worry about what people say and pursue it. Not with reckless abandon, but pursue it. Now, that's a lot of purple, but you can see now we had the blue everywhere and it was flat. And now that I've added the purple in, what's happened? The eyes and the blood around the nose has sunk in a little bit. So we're starting to get that depth. Even with just 2 colors, you start to feel that depth. Now, I'm gonna go a little bit lighter, but stay on the purple front. I'm gonna add pink, in this case, Ochre Rose. Now this is very naughty because this paint's actually got this pink has actually got a heavy metal in it. So I shouldn't be using it. Now I know we're in a ventilated space and we're using quite safe paint, but a lot of these paints, a lot of ones, no matter whether you're using oils, acrylics, gouaches, whatever, watercolors, the heavy metal's in the pigment, so it doesn't matter what kind of paint you're using, it may contain it. And you're gonna find cobalts, candiums, you won't find as many leads these days. We've moved away from that pretty much altogether. But please know that these paints aren't designed for your health. They're designed to paint with, it does break my heart, because I would like to see paint that focused on safety first, and then basically if you couldn't make red safe, red's a very common one to contain candium, and sometimes blues will contain that cobalt. You'll see cobalt blue. I would prefer a paint to say, nah, we start from safety first and then we reverse engineer. And if we can get as close as we can to red, that's great. But if we can't make it, that's also fine. What I actually see in the industry of making paint everywhere I go is actually, here's a beautiful paint, but be careful, it's not safe for you. And we shouldn't be using paint that could damage the artist, because no one piece of art is worth sacrificing the creator's health for. If we saw Starry Starry Night and Van Gogh was less, or he hurt himself while he made it, we would like it less. It's because of the belief we have that the aura on that piece is that he became a better person having made Starry Starry Night, and he was happy when he was doing those strokes, even though he was tortured in his existence, that when he made that painting, he felt at peace. That makes it a beautiful work. If we thought when he painted Starry Starry Night, he was miserable and crying, I would never find the urge to look at that painting again. And I think I'm in the majority of humanity on that front, because paintings do have an aura to them. And that aura needs to be one that we think is actually going to be one of growth and happiness. And if it's not, we tend to gravitate away from it. Now, I'm not using aura in the spiritual sense of it as much. When I say aura, I'm meaning like what Benjamin wrote about in 1941, when he wrote about art being democratized by inventions like printing presses and video, cinema. He wrote about art being democratized, and he was saying that basically what's going to start becoming the case, he says a lot of things. He says an absolute lot of things, but what he talks about mainly is that in a world where art becomes infinitely replicated, what value does the real art have? Because we still see value in it. if you had the real Starry Starry Night, you would feel differently about it. Even if you could never sell it, you would feel differently about it compared to the likes of, say, a print of it. Even if your eye saw them as exactly the same things. So Benjamin's saying, what's the difference for us? Why do we feel different about a copy of Starry Starry Night versus the real thing? And please, in this example, please, 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 imagine the painting isn't worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Imagine you've got a copy of it, or you got the real thing. And it's not worth anything. No one can ever know you own it. You can never sell it. It sits in a room where only you get to see it. Once a day you can walk in there and look at the real thing. But no one can ever know you did it, and you don't actually have any ability to ever sell it. You would feel differently about the real thing as opposed to the print. Now, why is that significant? That's really significant because that's saying that we as humans feel a slight aura from the real one. And I say feel a slight aura. We love the idea that on that real one, we can see where the paint's been stroked. We know that's the one that Van Gogh touched. We know that the existence of that one begets the existence of Van Gogh sitting there seeing that night. And there's a moment that that object had where it sat beside Van Gogh and had paint applied to it while Van Gogh looked at a starry, starry night. And so from that, we believe it's special. And it's that special element we add to it that I'm calling the aura of the painting. So, that's what we're trying to add in here. Don't let that aura be one of anything other than personal growth and joy. Because you owe that, not just to you, but to any collector who wants to believe in your work. It needs to be something that if the collector collects, do they know that the work that was made is infused in the way that when you made it, you did feel abundant joy. It brought pleasure to your life. And by them purchasing it, it's not just a case of here's a pretty picture, hang it in your home. It's also a case of I know that the artist was made better by this artwork. So yes, I purchased it and now the artist has enough to buy some food and a house over their head. But more importantly, I'm bringing some of that artist's good energy, good vibe, and good intention into my home. I don't want to bring an artist's negative intention into my home. And I'd do that if they felt negatively about the work when they made it. So, you'd be like, no you didn't. I just cried a little bit, felt negative towards the art when I made it, but it's still just as valuable as someone on the other front. I don't know. I don't believe it is. I want something that was made with a smile. I don't mind if you sacrificed while you made it. Sacrifice is okay. Being out here right now, we're sacrificing. It's hot. And we're using the most valuable resource of all, time. We're toiling, we're concentrating, we're adding paint. So in a way we are doing sacrifice. But that doesn't mean sacrifice needs to be miserable. Sacrifice, like right now, this is very fun sacrifice. I would make the sacrifice even if the art at the end was never to exist. Hear that again, this is so important. You know sacrifice has been made for a good reason. If you can honestly say to yourself, if you get nothing back for the sacrifice, would you still do it? And if the answer's yes, you're making art for exactly the right reasons. Now, I'm just going to come on in here, guys, because although we're recording a live session to share how to make a portrait, we're also doing a subscription-only live. And so I'm just going to jump into the chat quickly and say hi to Des Eon, who's talking about the mouth, which we've gone and cut out of this picture. And it's great to hear some people are saying that they have the eye. That's fantastic. For those who've been here for a long time, like you, Jay, I think you gained the eye from watching piece after piece be made. I think if you didn't have it before you started watching this channel, you probably got it from the channel. If you had it before, we need to get you doing something creative, because you need to use that, because that's the greatest thing you can bring into this world. And hey Dakota, welcome on in. You're all a bunch of champions. Appreciate you all being here. Aside from that too, we're making a face. And now every colour we've added so far has had a little bit of that ultramarine blue into it. So you can see even when we moved on to the purple, we mixed the ultramarine blue left on the palette into the purple. Even when we added the pink, that did take us more away from the blue, but still is in there with that purpley pink. And then now that I've added the white in there, suddenly the pink gets completely diluted, but we've got this lovely kind of steely sky, kind of like blue. It's kind of like a muted cerulean blue. And we're going to play with that, especially around this kind of cheek here. Everywhere where I see that medium grey, I'm going to tone out that darker blue, add in that medium grey, and then we're going to have the work on a really fun spot. This is where the fun comes in, because everything here is kind of single colour. I'm not going to count purple as adding in a secondary tone. It's not like that. It kind of all feels like it's on that blue front, like Picasso's blue era. That's where we're sitting. And purple feels close to that because it's just literally adjacent to the blue. It's when we spin the colour wheel and we dive on the next tone. Depends where we're going to go. Are we going to go to the red side or the yellow side? The world's our oyster. It really doesn't matter. But, there we go. I haven't decided yet. I'm not holding that information to make it harder for you. I literally don't know whether we're going to go down a red tangent or a yellow one. Now, yellow is going to be the most startling out of all the tangents. And the reason yellow will be the most startling is it's the furthest away from the angle we're currently taking. It's the complementary colour of purple, and so it's as far away from this current spectrum that we can get. We could go orange, which is the complementary of blue. Peach. I could be talked into a peach. Vibrant orange is probably a bit much. I do see myself leaning towards red, which is quite a soft take, because you go purple to blue to purple and purple to red. You're following a nice flow around the colour wheel. So we'll have to choose whether we're going for a surprise factor, whether we're going to keep flowing around the colour wheel, or what step we think we're going to make to take this artwork next. Now, there's two ways to look at it. There's two ways to look at it, and neither are wrong. One way is we prioritise the artwork. We say, this artwork needs red, it needs blue. And the other way we do it, and this is usually my favourite way, of course the selfish way, this is prioritise the artist. What do you feel like you want to add? I don't care if the work wants red. I don't care if the work wants blue. I don't care. What I care about is what you feel like you want to add. Where does your heart sit? And sometimes you look at a piece of artwork and you've added a lot of blue, and a lot of purple, and a lot of white, and you look at it and say, more blue. That's the irrationality of the heart, and that is worth pursuing, because in that little space of that irrationality, that love, you'll start actually creating stuff outside the beaten trail, off the track of where craft will take you, and it heads out, way out, into a world of possibility, an absolute world of possibility. Here we go. Gorgeous. It's only when you start following your heart that you end up in these completely random little pockets. Unpredictable. I love a little unpredictable pocket. Bear in mind, if you pursue it, you will most likely ruin a lot of beautiful art. Is it ruined? Or is it steps on your journey? I'd say the latter. And sometimes those pieces that are fired off in all sorts of directions, God, that's some of the beautiful, most beautiful stuff. All right, where are we sitting here? Continue from where we're going. Those eyes, they may start appearing, but they shouldn't be there yet. Now, even though we're getting more paint here, I need you to not worry about what's there. I need you looking at the picture. You start looking down at this here, you'll lose where it can go. I need you constantly looking up at the picture, spotting a moment, adding a moment. But the moment you start believing that, oh no, I might lose where I've come from, growth has that effect. The only way to get to where you're going is to be able to sacrifice who you currently are, and art's no different. The only way to take this picture to where it needs to go is to be able to sacrifice every moment and everything we've done so far. It's not that we need to destroy it. You never need to destroy it. But your focus can't be on this. It needs to be on that. Just like riding a horse, I need you focused on where we're going, not where we are. There we go. Peach. Do we dare go for peach? Is that just too naughty? Ever since I said peach, I've been thinking about it more and more. I just can't shake that might be the move that we make. Try and keep that brush loaded enough as well that actually when you do these strokes, I love a wet stroke. It needs to dry rapidly, but wet enough that it doesn't go on like a dry brush. I want it strong and wet. So whenever I add the colour, it stays with beautiful intensity. You don't have to do it like that. If you like a bit of dry stroke where it actually like leaves behind a jutted trail, do you. You don't need to do me. But, oh, I tell you what. If you want to make all the strokes on it nice and wet, it is an amazing effect. This kind of supple, perky effect with the paint. You don't have to pursue that. I can't stress that enough. You don't have to pursue that. But if you do, it can be quite rewarding on the surface of the canvas. Now, I'm going to put down my blue, my purple, my white. That plate's a bit of a mess. I've loved it. I've loved it. But the heart goes where the heart goes. Now I'm going to put this brush here too, which I'm going to put down a little bit lower, which again, love that brush. But I need a fresh one. It's a fresh one. Where are you? Hiding. Where did I put them? Ah, over here. Just a moment. Okay. So I've got two here to choose from. We're going smaller, and I've got one completely similar wood the whole way across it. Love this one. And one that splits. So this one's got a bit of heart timber through it. I'll the exact same size brush. Just depends on which one, in this instance, is screaming out to us. I love the split. Split is what I'm here for. Now, the colour we're going to go for. Now, I'm not going to go for apricot or... What was that the colour I was saying? Apricot, orange, but off the orange tone. Had a name for it, it's gone now though. I'm going to work with pale rose blush. Now this is kind of a skin tone, but it definitely has a little bit of that orange in it. The reason why I want to jump on this colour is it has that teeny bit of that warmish tone just sneaking in there with its clay pale tone. When actually, the tone I want, the colour I want is white to play around these eyes and these wrinkles under the eyelids and this nose. But I'm going to build towards that gradually, and this is the first step. This lovely, creamy, clayey skin tone. Almost, it's almost white. And so it's going to be quite subtle as it goes on, but I'm allowed to play with it. So everywhere that's not pure white is going to get this lovely tone. There we go. Interesting. God, I thought I wanted that brush, I'm missing my rat tail brush immediately. I'm gonna wash this one off and use it. Couldn't help myself, guys. This brush is just too much fun. Right, it's washed off. Here we are. Look at that. Lovely and clean. If I just use that raw with the blue, we would have lost the subtlety in our pink. I couldn't quite avoid that. So we've washed this brush off. We're back staying on the bigger brush. Now, big brushes are fun, but it does make detail a little bit harder. That being said, we're not quite at the detail stage yet. I probably ran into the biggest trap of all, which is over-assessing the artwork here. I need to keep my focus on the image up here, for fear that I actually just start doing small little dabs and dots everywhere I look. Can't risk that. Make sure we keep on adding in. There we go. Across that forehead there. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. You can already see, even though this colour is extremely subtle, how it's popping off the surface. Just because it's the first sign of that red tone versus the blue. And so it just naturally wants to stand out, even though the biggest, boldest colour on that's actually the egg yolk. As we keep blending that into our paste. Just going to get in here and do a few little dots. Ah, subtle details. You see, I can't actually do these if I didn't have the rat brush, the rat tail brush. In this case here, a rat tail always sounds like a dirty thing. You're like, ew, a rat tail brush for elegant artwork? Sir. Well, let me just say that in this case, the rat tail is a noble, noble trait, because it's exactly what we need to create this art. So in this case, we are not looking at the rat saying, ugh. We're looking at the rat saying, yes, sir. There we go. Because it's giving us the ability to make this art exactly what we want it to be. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, you don't need to make sure all the strokes are wet. I know I was just fanboying away on that idea, but part of the beauty behind the art is sometimes the imperfect strokes, how they don't all look exactly uniform, and the way that if you did want exact uniformity, a tablet would be a very, very good friend for you. A beautiful tablet that you could put a beautiful picture on, sketch it brilliantly and draw it with your hand, but when you make it in reality, you make it with your hands and you paint it step by step by step, well, the difference there is it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be messy moments, dry moments, moments that are too wet, maybe the paint drips a little bit. And this is actually a nod to your use of materials. You don't want to hide the fact that you're using real wet paint. Why today, that's a rarity. It's a novelty. So make sure you own the fact that the paint's wet. Enjoy the fact that it's wet. Don't struggle against the medium. If it wants to go dry, if it wants to go wet, if it wants to drip, if it wants to not go on at all. This is just the challenges of the medium you've chosen to work with. If you want that perfectionism, well, don't fight the resource. I'd move to a tablet, where you also have the ability to undo things. Although I think that holds back. I think that undo button probably holds back the artist more than you could ever imagine. You see, being able to undo your mistakes, I believe, locks you in a permanent paradoxical condition where how will you ever go anywhere? Because there's always a different stroke that you can subjectively believe is better. So how do you move forward? In fact, anything you make becomes a moment of acceptance that actually I could take it no further. Whereas if you're sitting there, you can constantly undo things. Oh, I Can't believe it. I love not being able to undo things. In a way, I love to embrace mistakes, but on the other hand, maybe I also have no choice. Maybe that's why I embrace mistakes. It's hard to know. It's very hard to know. Gorgeous. Here we go. Now, down this area here, between that nose, that's the part of the mouth just sneaking down there. It's not actually the mouth, it's a little bit of skin right above the top lip. We're just going to capture that in there. I can feel that sun. You can just see it peeking over my back. I can feel it heating out my bottom, and I can feel it starting to hit my torso. So we may need to do a slight rearrangement. Rearrange our position to somewhere where that shade's back where it needs to be to stop your artist from cooking. I haven't worked out what that solution's going to be yet. See, painting outside's great because the fumes of the art disperse into the world around you rather than being confined to one area that could actually cause damage and give you a hard time. It's not that the fumes are extremely bad for you. This is egg tempera, so you could say that actually there's nothing bad for you in here, to a degree. But at the same time, having it in a way where you're not constantly nose on the grindstone, breathing it in, this is good for your health. This is a good way to be. You know, I can handle it for an hour. Cool. I'm glad. Can you handle it for 40 years? Because if you can't do it for 40 years, I wouldn't risk it or make it a habit. Make a habit of doing it for an hour. Find a way to do it safely first, and then maximize that method. That's the best way, in my mind, to get what you need. All right, time for a bit of friskiness. Now, we dabbled around for a little bit. We didn't know whether we'd pursue the path of red or yellow. We went down a little bit of a skin tone colour, couldn't help myself. I've gone for a Venetian red, which comes out like a bit of a brick tone, a clayey colour. And this is going to be a little bit fun. I'm looking forward to this. Here we go. On top of the skin tone, it's going to send it into the colour of bricks. And that's going to be a nice complement to the ultramarine blue, which is kind of sitting there waiting for a friend. This is not, there we go. This is not the exact same tone, is it? It's a little bit lighter, but they'll hang out in a very fun way. Gorgeous. Dab in. There we go. I want to go in there, but that is all dark. Temptation was killing me. There we go. There we go. Spotting a moment, adding a moment. Spotting a shade, adding a shade. There we go. Love it. Love it. There we go. See, this is creeping around those wrinkles, one little moment at a time. Oh, I might need to splash them with some white after this, but for now, having some real fun with this clayey tone. There's so many colours we could add, and there's always, from this point onwards, the chance to actually say no, I'm done. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're having a good time. And just stand back for a moment, have a little gaze. I'm liking it. I think after this red, I want to explore the white and the black. And inside that moment, I want to gain a little bit of control back from the artwork. You see, white and black, they share a similar role, black being the stronger colour, but they both have the effect of defining. Of course, you can mix them into other colours, that's totally fine, but when you have them raw, absolutely raw, they will destroy everything else you've made. In their attempt, in their good attempt, in their nice attempt to define. And what I love that, just be careful, because you can lose beautiful, vibrant energy and colour by sacrificing them to too much black or too much white. These tones, they want to help, they really do, but overuse of them, many a good work have been lost. And the problem is, when you start defining things, it becomes, dare I say it becomes addictive. And only once you've done too much defining, you can no longer see the artwork, do you realise what you've done? Ugh, it becomes very, very tough. Here we go. Yeah. I'll be getting a little bit scratchy with the brush. I'll open up a bit more. Let my hand flow better. There's a temptation just to actually do smaller strokes. It feels comfortable. It feels like a zone where you won't make a mistake, or even if you do make a mistake, it'll be too small to notice. So you do that over and over again, and what ends up being the outcome? Well, a culmination of thousands of unnecessary strokes and mistakes that you thought were too small to notice culminate in a picture which is actually just one giant mistake. So put down paint boldly. If it's worth adding big. And sometimes it's nice to just pause for a moment. Stand back and look at what you've got and examine it. Before leaping in there and chucking on more paint, think, where actually do I want this to go? Where can this have the greatest impact? What stroke at this very moment in time would bring me the highest level of joy in this current piece? Reverse the question. Don't make it about the art. Don't ask the question, what does the art need? Ask the question, what would make me feel the best? What do I need in this moment? What can the art give me? What colour do I want to use, and how do I want to add it? This picture's an expression of you. It doesn't exist externally of you. If you keep thinking that it exists externally, you'll remove the you factor from it. While you're dancing with it, the picture needs to be a part of you. I know that sounds cheesy. But if it's not, well, you might just miss out on something very, very special. If you knew how special your art could become, if you knew that you were about to make the next starry, starry night in the moment you're painting right now, would you do anything? Put anything negative? Or do it in any way you didn't want to do it? I think you'd add all the love you possibly could. Clean brush, that's what I need. This time, do we go for black first or white first? I'm gonna leap on some indigo. Someone's like, wait a minute, we're supposed to be doing black or white and you're doing indigo? Indigo is like a dark blue. You can see there, it looks black when it's on the surface. I think what we'll do is we'll go for the indigo put it in some of those big dark areas, attack those, and then we can cut back in with the white. There's these subtle moments, especially the glimmer on the eyes, that I want to capture with the white last. But honestly, entirely a position of preference. So if you want to start with black now, if you want to do white, if you're still playing around, or if you went down a different trajectory and never chose the blue, or went down a yellow path, keep doing your thing. You're on your own quest, and I wouldn't dare tell you how to find the most pleasure on that. That's for you. Here we go. Gorgeous. Big strokes. If it's worth adding, it's worth adding big. Beautiful. Gorgeous, gorgeous paint. Now I sneak, yeah, it's a bit, yeah, there we go. Lovely. Sometimes it's fun just to mix the paint around the surface as well. Keep blending it in. When you go thicker, you can see more brush strokes. When you go thinner, you can spread it easier. What do you like? Thick and buttery? Thin and spreadable? There's no wrong answer. I chop and change within the artwork. Sometimes I do it this way, sometimes I do it that way. It's entirely up to you. But there's one thing for certain, guys. I want to, in this period we're spending together, bring this portrait somewhere where you can say, it's beautiful, and if you so choose, it's finished. But it's not there yet. Why? Because subjectively, my eye says no. My eye sees more moments that I haven't captured yet. And my eye wants those moments to exist in this picture. And without it, I don't think this picture can be all that it can be. So we'll dabble. Continue to dabble. Let's see where this fun little face can go. Notice that my legs are lacking a bit of movement. I don't want the same stroke a million times over. I want a little bit of difference in the way these paint strokes hit. I need to keep that shoulder moving. I need to keep my legs moving. There we go. Beautiful. That's going to cut around there. Gorgeous. A bit more of this indigo. Indigo, because I'm in the know. Still see that blue peeking through. Kind of important, guys. It's a temptation just to let anywhere the blue sat exist forever, as if by some weird chance we added every stroke perfect the first time, or we accept that every stroke we've ever added was actually slightly incorrect, and we gave ourselves permission to cover up certain strokes and add again. And play with the paint, see where it ended up, see where a painting could go. I like how that eye's sinking back some more, kind of how it looks in the image. The darkness comes in there. Massive fan of that. You keep on skimming through these parts. Beautiful. Lovely. Okay. Love that, love that, love that. I'm going to put this brush up for a moment. We will come back to it. But I want this brush. And on this brush, I'm going to put some flame red. So we are going to go down a red path now. Be prepared for that. Flame red is the most powerful saturation in colour that we've used since we used the ultramarine blue right at the start. This colour is going to be strong. It's going to have as much presence as the ultramarine blue, but instead of giving depth and wonder, the beyond sea colour of ultramarine blue, it's going to give vigour and vitality. If we go too far with it, well, who knows? The last time we went arguably too far with the colour was when we used a lot of red on the painting now coined Lobster Boy. Tell me, How do you think painting gets the name Lobster Boy? The use of a lot of red. It was a portrait, and just like if you go into the sun for too long, you can get sunburnt. So too with this painting. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He was a lobster, all right. Not in the actual photo, but in my rendition of him, we had a lobster. There's no doubt. There we go. Beautiful. Keep dabbling that around the edges. Gorgeous. Wet stroke, dry stroke, small stroke, big stroke. As long as it's a confident stroke, that's what we want. We want confident strokes cascading the surface. Not nervous, jittery, chicken scratchy strokes. We want energy, son. Power. There we go. Gorgeous. Absolutely stunning. Sneak down here a little bit, devil across that edge. Nice. Now at this point in time, keep your concentration on that image up here. Keep referring back to it, keep looking at it, keep using it to inspire where paint goes. Don't get too locked into your image, otherwise you'll start losing it. Keep your focus on the subject matter. Watch where you're going, not where you are. Always watch where you're going. It's hard though, because when I just say watch where you're going, you start thinking, oh, all right, I'll watch the painting. But watch where you're going means keep your eye on the subject matter. Just like if you're sketching someone, don't start thinking you're going to start looking at the painting. You keep your eyes locked on that person you're sketching. Don't stop looking at them. Keep gazing them down. There we go. Gorgeous. We finished adding the red? Not quite. How are we feeling at this stage? I think we're ready for two colours. It'll shake up what we're doing. Ooh, I'll wash the brush. There we go. And now, pure white, but since my palette here has got all messy, I'm going to need to be very careful with where I go. We'll work on the edges. Before I do though, I've just picked up a little colour I want to get sidetracked with. The kind of colour that can be quite useful if you use it correctly. This is an unspoken hero that I can't help but to keep coming back to. Neutral grey. Before we go into the whites, I just want to dabble this around a few little pockets. Neutral grey is that kind of colour that contrasts with the saturation and allows everything else to stand out. A real team player. Where would we be without a bit of neutral grey? Lord only knows. There we go. Bit of red sneaking in there, that's okay. Beautiful. Around here too. That's just what I'm after. Right, give me that white. We've talked about it long enough now. It's time to add white. Now, with the white I'm going to add, I'm not going to mix it with any egg tempera. It's going to be raw pigment, because when it lands, I don't want it to mix on the surface. I just want potent, powerful white. So imagine this is the last highlights of sun kissing the surface. And before we let any other colour get on the brush, you know exactly where I'm going first. Into the eyes. And to make sure the white is as pure as I can get. Now the scariest thing about eyes, there's this temptation to look at the eyes when you paint them. Try not to. Try to look at the subject matter. Focus on the eyes you're drawing, not where the paintbrush is landing. And no, the irises might not be perfect. This is true, they might not be perfect. But if you can do that, and focus for a moment on what you're trying to go to, where you're trying to go, and not on exactly what an eye should look like, weirdly enough, it might stand out a bit more for you. It might. Beautiful. We're going to get quite scratchy with these brush strokes. Harsh with the white. It won't flow as nicely. The only thing that's making this pigment move over the surface, gum arabic, which when added to a surface as rough as this one, it's going to want to dry brush on, which is fun because then we've got the underlying wet egg tempera, and on top some quite harsh, rougher strokes that are going to make this painting pretty fun and special. Now that doesn't mean we need to finish it here completely, but it does mean that for this moment in time, after this white goes on, we're going to label it as finished. And maybe as the days tick by, maybe we think to ourselves, hold on. Give me that painting back. I want to play around with some yellows. I want to add some greens. I want to do this, I want to do that. It's okay to do that. It's okay to have that epiphany months or years after the fact. I think the best thing to do is once you've finished a painting, give it time to sit. Let it actually marinate. And in that marination process, you actually discover how you feel about it. So often we actually rework and rework and rework and therefore overwork a painting just because we're so determined to get it to a place when actually all it wanted us to do was give it a moment. Sometimes perfection is in the imperfection. We're only able to realize that when we give artwork a chance to breathe. Alright, to finish us off, that white, before it gets too thick, can go into some of my indigo. It's going to give me this lovely pastel purple. I'm going to go exploring with it just around the surface, just seeing little pockets where this colour might or could go. I'm just going to dabble it around, and on the whole, this colour here, blending between those darker shades and the lighter ones, that's going to smooth things out a little bit, make the painting more approachable. Sometimes paintings can get quite intense. There we go. But now, that's just going to help it relax down a little bit. Beautiful. Bit more of that. I want more of the, more of those colours than I actually expected. And in a way, I like it. There we go. I don't want to go too far with it though. There's so much excitement that actually, if I push the boat out too far, well, we might lose it. Now, as with all artists, sometimes people say they're finished, and then they go back to it, and then they say they're finished, and then they go back to it, and this goes in a beautiful, beautiful, endless loop. Now I wonder if I've got one last colour that I want to add on the surface. Just seeing if it's here. Where might you be? Seems like it's been forever since you've been gone. Is this one going to be dark? No, that's not dark enough. Maybe this one. That might work. Like a lighter version of Mars Black. We'll add a little bit of this on. Here we go. Just a little bit before we say that that's enough. Especially around this eye here. There we go. Here we are. Absolutely gorgeous. All right, team. We'll pause there. That's our face. Beautiful. All right, let me put that down there. Now, let me spin this round so you can see what we got to. Try not to pull everything to bits or knock over cups and plates as I do it. Here is our abstract face. So inside of these colours that we've added, we've found ourselves slowly creating two eyes. The cheeks, they'll start to round, but more importantly there is this delightful squint, and it's heading off with its gaze in a direction. I've had a good time. I'd like to say thank you very much to anyone who's been here sharing this little day with me. It is so hot out today, so I'm glad you persevered with the umbrella, which is keeping me shady, because without it I just don't know what we'd do. And wherever you are in the big old world, hope you're healthy and happy. Wishing you all the best, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. All right, cheers, Jay. We got Jay, we got Steve. Welcome in, guys. It's quite fun though. You can see the abstraction there, and most importantly, you can see the energy in that face, the intensity in those strokes and the gaze. I think that's the important thing here. It's not to get hung up on the nose existing or the eyes or the brow, but to actually harness some of that energy in that face. So we got that. Anyway, guys, look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.